Classic popular cars from the 1960s. Remember the classic cars that defined the 1960s? We remember a lot of them from movies, or just because you couldn't help but watch as a Chevy Impala drove down the road. Out of everything, the 1960s helped direct car manufacturers in the right direction. After all, if you're a fan of classic cars, or just cars in general, there isn't a better era than the 60s. Nowadays, things are a lot different. The cars aren't as durable, and some of them don't have that je ne sais quoi. A lot of people are worried about what features their cars have without really looking at the style, which is why these classic cars may have a design style that looks a tad unusual by today's standards. Regardless, these cars were the definition of cool during the decade. From the Impala to the Thunderbird to the Camaro, some truly iconic automobiles were on the road during the time of peace, love, and happiness. So, come on, throw on your shades, roll down the windows, and get ready for a ride down memory lane. Whether you're a classic car enthusiast or remember taking a spin yourself in one of these, this is one list you don't want to miss. You're not going to find cars like these anywhere else but the 60s. Which one of these cars are your favorite classic cars from the 1960s? If we had to pick a favorite, we'd have to say, forget it. We can't pick between them all. 1961, Cadillac Sedan DeVille. This early decade DeVille was one of the last models to rock those taillight fins. And who could forget that bus-sized steering wheel? Plus, we couldn't have a classic car list without a pink Cadillac. Thanks, Elvis and the Freeway of Love. 1961, Chevrolet Impala. This was the pinnacle of convertibles. Even the sedan models had convertible roof styling. America just couldn't resist the open road. 1961, Ford Thunderbird. Ford's response to the Corvette was the 1961 Thunderbird, but it was still marketed as a personal car instead of a sportster. Eventually, this segment became the personal luxury car. 1963, Chevy Corvette Stingray. The second generation of the Corvette became the most classic, with its fastback design and unique divided rear window. Thanks to its enduring popularity, Chevy even brought back the Stingray nameplate for its latest iteration of the Corvette. 1964, Aston Martin DB5. It might not have been the first James Bond car, but it's surely the most famous thanks to Goldfinger. Can you name another 1960s car that has ingrained itself so deeply into popular culture? 1964, Porsche 911. Classic. The 911 is still a current offering from Porsche, but it just doesn't quite live up to this classic 1964 design. The styling was just as home in your driveway as it was on the racing courses of Le Mans. 1965 Chevrolet Bel Air. The full-sized Bel Air was completely restyled for the 1965 model year. The popular bubble-top design became boxier, then a growing trend for the traditional family car. 1965 Ford Mustang. It's the car that started a movement. The Mustang was small and light, but featured a powerful engine. Thus, the pony car was born. Costing around $2,400 in 1965, the Mustang would be about $19,000 in today's dollars, quite a bit cheaper than 2023's base model. 1965 Jeep CJ5. The CJ5, the original SUV before SUVs were cool, remained largely unchanged over the course of its 30-year run before being replaced by the modern Wrangler. You can still see the resemblance. 1965 Lincoln Continental. It might seem large compared to today's compact cars, but the 65 Continental was actually the smallest Lincoln yet. It promoted its agile size by showing advertisements where a woman easily parallel parks. 1965 Plymouth Barracuda. Chrysler's response to the success of the Mustang was this sporty two-door. The fastback design had a unique rear window that wrapped around the edges of the passenger cabin. 1965, Shelby Mustang GT 350. The 65 might be the smallest of the Mustang Cobras that were produced, but the Wimbledon white and racing stripes remain a classic design well into the modern today. 1966, Alfa Romeo Spider. This cute little Italian roadster was the perfect car for puttering down a sunny beachside drive. While it was famous in car circles for its distinctive dovetail rear design, you will more likely remember Dustin Hoffman's running out of gas in The Graduate. 1966, Buick Wildcat. This classic sedan, which also came in convertible iterations, features that distinctly Buick sweep spear design feature. It's that rub strip that runs the length of the vehicle from nose to tail. Look for it again in the Buick Riviera. 1966, Oldsmobile Toronado. Oldsmobile's Toronado competed directly with the Ford Thunderbird in the newly minted personal luxury car segment. The distinct, sporty styling won it Motor Trend's coveted Car of the Year award in 1966. 1966, Pontiac GTO. While it was introduced earlier, the 66 was the first year the Pontiac GTO was released as a standalone model. As tail fins from the 50s faded away, these Coke bottle design influences, arches around the back wheel well, replaced them. 1966, Chevrolet Camaro. Chevy's Mustang competitor pulled out all the stops for its 67 debut. It wouldn't best the Ford in sales until 10 years later, but a rivalry was born. 1967, Mercury Cougar. Mercury's 67 Car of the Year award winner occupied a space in between the Mustang and the Thunderbird, featuring an electric shaver grille that concealed hidden headlamps. 1967, Pontiac Firebird. The Pontiac Firebird was the Camaro's cousin and released around the same time as the Mercury Cougar. With signature Coke bottle styling, the Firebird gave rise to the now famous Trans Am Performance Package. 1968, Volkswagen Type 2. There are fewer automobiles that conjure up images of flower power and hippie culture than the Volkswagen Type 2, affectionately called VW Bus. This counterculture icon is actually an updated model from one produced during 1950 to 67. The major difference is a unified windshield instead of the older divided one. 1968, Buick Riviera. GM joined Ford in the personal luxury car market with the 63 Buick Riviera. But it was the second generation of the car that modernized the Buick sweep spear and featured a unique horseshoe-shaped gear shift. 1968, Chevrolet. Chevelle SS, the second-gen Chevelle SS, truly embraced the car's inner hot rod. The Coke bottle styling of the body featured a distinct kick-up, a high-rising flare where the trunk met the cabin body. 1968, Ford Torino. The Torino covered all areas of automotive needs. The fastback and convertible designs competed with the likes of the pony cars, but it also featured a stain wagon design for the more practical, family-minded driver. 1968 Jaguar E-Type. The British sports classic set the bar high when it came to beauty and performance. If you could afford a sports car during the 60s, this is the one you would get. Even Enzo Ferrari called it the most beautiful car ever made. 1968, Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme. The Cutlass Supreme was Oldsmobile's cousin, offering to the Chevy Chevelle. However, they were more luxurious with plush bench and bucket seats and a high-performance V8 package. 1968, Volkswagen Beetle. Famously produced by the Germans beginning during World War II, the Beetle saw its greatest success in the U.S. during the 1960s. Essentially unchanged since its introduction, the Beetle is the best-selling single automobile design in history. 1969. Dodge Charger. The Charger was introduced in '66, but the second-generation redesign was where sales really increased. The 1969 model, in particular, would become iconic a decade after its production thanks to the Dukes of Hazzard. 1969. Dodge Dart Swinger. While it was originally introduced as a full-size car in 1960, redesign saw it downsize to an eventual compact offering like the 1969 version. It was then that the Swinger moniker adopted for the two-door hardtop, a replacement for the discontinued two-door sedan. 969. Plymouth Road Runner. The performance-built mid-size car from Plymouth came on the scene in 1968, but 1969 was the year it won Motor Trend's Car of the Year award. The air grabber option was an important introduction to the model lineup that year. 1970. Dodge Challenger 1970. What gives? Before we get tons of emails to the editor, remember that models are released before their actual model year. So this 1970 Challenger actually came out in 1969, just beating the decade cutoff and giving Dodge its competitor to the Mustang and Camaro. Welcome to the ultimate 1960s muscle car channel. Step back in time and experience the raw power, sleek designs, and roaring engines of the golden age of American muscle cars. From iconic V8 beasts to rare classics, we showcase everything a true enthusiast dreams about. Explore the stories behind these legendary machines, enjoy detailed reviews, and join us for thrilling rides. Don't miss out on exclusive content about the greatest muscle cars of the '50s. Hit that subscribe button and become part of our classic car family today. Let me know if you'd like additional edits.